We've got Gary Horton from Horton's Inspection Services on with us today, and we're really excited to hear more about your business and really just kind of let you educate us and just kind of give us the whole scoop. So just kind of start us off. Like, how'd you get into the industry? How'd you find it? Kind of what's your background there?
Once I retired from the military, we moved to Georgia, and my wife was an educator in the local area, and so I was basically finding something to do. I was doing a house husband, and then this is something that I enjoy doing, handy kind of thing. So the person that actually inspected our first house here in Georgia allowed me to be an apprentice for about a year.
Great.
And it started from, you go upstairs and there's a little outlet checker that you can put in and plug in.
Sure. And
to see if it's good. He said, take this, go upstairs and plug it in, and don't talk to anybody.
Right.
So from that start process all the way up until the point we say, hey, look, I've got to go to this other house, do this, and I go ahead and close up. So I was writing reports with him, seeing something that he didn't see or something like that. So it was a very good year, but it was time to step off and step into the abyss and create my business basically for my family.
Sure. It's exciting.
So it's so getting into home inspection, it's a way that I can put back in to make sure people are getting a good house.
Sure.
When they're doing that. So that's how I got into it. I took the courses, took the exams, and got certified. And still, every year, I've been doing it for 5 years now, since 2016. Every year has gotten more inspections for just marketing, advertising, things of that nature. And a lot of my business is word of mouth.
Sure.
So definitely in the zone of COVID last year, it was my business was down, but it wasn't stopping anything. I was still doing inspections. It was just very sporadic, if you will, due to just people either being afraid of having people come in the house, or we don't want somebody to come in our house while we're living here if the house was vacant or things of that nature. So,
right.
So it was a couple of jumps through the hoops, and so I did a little bit more education. And starting off this year, my marketing, my plan now is to get out and be more visible and actually try to grow the business. And that's in a nutshell.
Well, so the real estate market last year, like especially the second half of the year, and I don't know a ton about, interest rates and all that. I mean, I watch it from the edges, but the rates, from what I understand, are at all-time lows, and the real estate market's been booming. So I would expect, and tell me if I'm wrong, you guys probably have a really good year forecasted for this year. There's probably a lot of people that are wanting to either refinance or potentially upgrade because they can get a better rate and maybe get more house for the same money. So I would think there's probably going to be a lot of people moving in the next, this quarter, first quarter, second quarter of this year. I would expect to see a lot of that.
Right. Just from my personal experience, we bought a house in 2019 and moved from Kennesaw to Ackworth. And we bought a house when we first got the first house we got here, and it was a low number. We bought it, we sold it for a little bit higher, so we were able to go. But when we bought the house that we're living in now, 6 months later, we refinanced and dropped a whole percentage point. And that was still not low as today is now.
Sure.
So there is a lot of the mortgage brokers, talking with them, they are, come to me, let me run your numbers, because it is so much of a big difference that you may pay a little bit up front, 1 or 2%. But on the
you get it back.
On the end of it, you have cut off significant
Oh yeah.
amounts.
Oh yeah. No, I can imagine. So what? I'm assuming mortgage guys are some of your best friends. They're the ones that probably really feed you business. What are some other places that where you find a lot of success? Looking for new clients and new prospects.
We do, as far as the company itself, we do networking groups. There's a few good networking groups. Ackworth Connections, we had a good time there. They meet at Centertown Street, or Tavern, Center Street Tavern. Mm-hmm. My apologies. And then have Brookstone Connections, where we have a simple group. But the business associations, whether it be Ackworth Business Association, Kennesaw Business Association, and there's an association for everybody that's out there. There's so many networking possibilities. And then, of course, you have your BNIs that are a little bit more aggressive.
Right.
They generate more. They cost more. So it's expected to produce more.
Yeah, I thought you say BNI. I thought I recognized your name. So are you? What group are you in?
I am not in the BNI.
Oh, you're not in one. Did you used to be?
No.
Okay, so I thought I'd seen your name somewhere. Are you like in the ABA or one of the? Yeah, I think I saw your name on something at some point in the last couple of years. It sounded familiar. So you said something earlier that I chuckled a little bit. So you mentioned that you didn't like being a house husband when you first came back. So how old are your kids?
19, 17, and 7.
So that means that at the time they were, newborn and all still in the house.
Right.
So yeah, that makes a lot more sense. You're like, I got to get out of here. Oh, yeah.
It's after
at least during the day.
Yeah, it does happen like that, but no, I don't mind being a house husband. It really is a thankless job, and whether it's doing that for helping out, just transferring or transporting people, going to meetings, things of that nature during school. But we spent, my wife and I had about 10 years of travel ball, and there was practice every evening.
Baseball, softball.
Baseball and soccer for individuals. So we had practice every night at 2 different locations. We had we had games, tournaments every weekend at 2 different locations. So there were many times we'd spend the weekend one side of the state and the other side of the state. One would be in LaGrange down by Columbus, and then I would be in Lake Savannah for that. So, I mean, there was a lot of moving around, and it just makes it easy. But,
well, it's a lot of fun. I mean, and I think kids remember that. I played baseball as a kid, and I remember my parents being at those things. And you say it's a thankless job, but I think you get a lot out of it for yourself, and it matters to you. And I think
it does.
I think a lot of people kind of miss that it is. It's a blessing to be able to do that. It's really cool. So good for you guys, and that's fun. But it's even more impressive to have all of that, time responsibility and still start, like you said, take that leap and start a new business and, apprentice with someone and kind of go, okay, this is what I want to do. And that's really cool. So, I mean, I definitely commend that. What are some of the things so let's say I'm a prospective home buyer, right? So I'm getting ready to buy a house. Talk to me about what are some of the things that I should look for, or should I even look for anything, or should I just automatically call some? I mean, obviously when you get a mortgage, you have to get an inspection, but let's just say I'm not getting a mortgage, or, what are some red flag things that I see that tell me I should call someone? What are some of those things?
The first thing when you look at a house, if you need an inspection, you're going to go over and you're going to have cosmetic issues. Cosmetic issues may be some nail pops on the ceiling of the roof where the old screws are coming out, something like that, or a hole in the wall, basically a cutout of the drywall. But whenever I look at a house, I look for water. That's my thing. Where it starts in the roof, comes down, where it flows, and on the ground. Because you can if you look at the ground in the house, it'll tell you where the water's going. And if you got the water going the wrong way, it's going to degrade the house that much faster. So when you look for the houses, you can see the house easy if you have the roof and you are missing the shingle. But when you start seeing the little dots on them, start getting a little bit array, it may be time to look at it again. But to walk into a house, best thing is electric, plumbing. You just look, see do you have any faucets that are leaking. Taking a shower and you switch it from the bathtub to the shower and the water's still coming out of the faucet. And it's weak O-rings. That's just something simple to fix, but it's one of those things that is there.
So you're checking everything. I mean, you're literally going top to bottom. I'm crawling through the attic. If you have a crawl space, I'm getting down with the spiders and the caterpillars, and I'm going through there, and I'm checking everything. Is
it mostly things that are like behind the wall, or more like on the?
Things will actually show up. I get frustrated sometimes. I know that one inspection that I did, they got a brand new roof put on. So when I went up into the attic, the frame of the roof was rotten. They didn't replace any wood underneath it. So the only way to fix that is take the entire new roof off, replace the wood, and then put it back.
So they only did like the shingles and that's it?
Just put a top over top of it.
Like a Band-Aid.
So you find that some of the times, but new construction, you still find things in there. I know that one new construction that I inspected had about a 4-foot water spot in the garage in the ceiling. And what it was from was the upstairs bathtub that had no sill around the handles.
I was going to say, my parents' house, that happened to them.
So why nobody saw it was because the contractors, they would open up the garage door. Everybody would go in, work on the house, and come back out, shut the garage door down. When I did the garage door up and down to make sure the reverse for the kids' restraint, there's a big spot on the floor.
Oh, because the door was up while they were in there, so they didn't see it.
Nobody, because the door covered it up every time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you just run into things.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, and there's no substitute for experience. So now that you've seen that, and there's 100 other little things like that that I gotta, you have a checklist that's 10 pages long, I'm sure, and you're checking all these little things, and so I mean it pays to have someone who is, I guess, very detail oriented. I mean that's really focusing on all those little small things and not trying to go too fast and just kind of being methodical.
Right.
That's I can assume that's very important for that line of work.
The biggest thing now that's going is decks. Decks are getting to that age where when houses built in the 2005, they're about to 15, 20-year-old. They got the decks on them that are original. And those are becoming either one, wood needs to be replaced where it's been flat and the water's just been sitting on top of it, like the floorboards or the railings or things of that nature. So something like that is for safety. I would call that out if they needed to do that, because a lot of people like to use the deck for parties or engagements kind of thing.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to go to the far end of the deck. They don't want to stand next to the house.
The most dangerous spot.
Right. That is the most dangerous spot, and that's where they go. So every time you look at a deck, if you look underneath it, you see the 6x6 posts or whatever size they are.
If it's touching the dirt, that's bad.
No, actually you can see them. They've got cracks.
Oh. The ones that run up and the length of the board.
And they turn, twist.
Oh.
And you can see it. I mean, it's pretty obvious once you start looking. It's like, well, okay, that's turned. They're still sturdy. They're still set in the ground, however they are, and that's the reason they're twisting, because they're twisting because of the load. Up until a certain time, they didn't worry about shear, the shear pressure on it.
So wind and stuff.
Yeah, just like now they got like hurricane straps, things of that nature for everything. But they would go and they would build it for weight out front. and that would be the heaviest place. And then some of the decks are big enough where you see you got a diagonal board up on the bottom. And you look up into it. Well, that diagonal board is bracing it for the shear of turning.
Okay.
So it's now.
So it says the code changed over the years.
Yes, it's got a lot better now. But to have a deck, mine was old, but I just reinforced it, and no big deal.
So is that something that do you have to constantly kind of do continuing education, keep up with like new building code standards? And I'm assuming that's part that kind of goes hand in hand with what you do. You have to kind of know, okay, this house was built in 1965, so they were grandfathered into certain things, or versus this house was built in 2015, so there's a totally different expectation for what they have to have because of when the house was built.
Correct. As far as a home inspector, the bad word is code.
Okay.
We don't do code inspections as a home inspector myself, but what we do, normally you will go above what the basic ethics and SOP for the different kind of, like a member of ASHI and InterNACHI associations. You have to test in for them because there's no certification for Georgia. There's no state ruling over Georgia home inspectors.
Okay.
So that's what keeps us busy that's what keeps us.
So there's a lot of dudes out there that
Could be.
There could be some people out there doing things not the right way.
Right. They
So
just
because
take the
of
class
that,
and go right into it.
yeah, guys like you that are doing all those right things and are getting certified, it's good for you. It's, not, you never want to hope bad things happen to someone, but when someone has a bad experience and they find someone like you that actually does know those things, it makes you look that much better. I'm sure you get to come in and be the kind of the white knight to save the day.
Hero.
Right. So with going away from codes, most inspectors will go just from simple knowledge or experience. They will go a little bit deeper than that, and you can see that if something is wrong, the outlets in a room. If one outlet is bad or has a open ground, that's also with moving in time as far as the regulations, the codes and things. Most people if you have the 2-prong, you don't have the 3-prong outlets. Mm-hmm. So that was the open ground there. They changed the outlet to make it seem that it works, but it's still open ground because they don't have open ground. They don't have a ground wire.
There's nothing running to that third spot. Yeah.
So it's some of those things are simple, but yet.
And you can check that with a detector still. You can tell whether it's grounded as soon as you stick the thing in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's very simple, very easy. But in some certain counties, they have their own rules on it. If you're doing a remodel, and that's what we usually use. If we tell them, hey, look, if you do remodel this house or update the renovation of the house, like the kitchen or bathroom, they want you to bring up to code with the older houses. If the house is not going to be rebuilt or renovated, then it can stay. It's built according to that time frame. Mm-hmm. But if you want to redo this you have to bring it up. And some counties will say that you have to take the whole room all the way back to the electrical box, electrical panel, and raise it up to the standards.
Things like arc fault and different the circuit breakers and the electrical I'm sure is one of the ones that you probably see the most of with that, because that's so much a safety concern. Mm-hmm. So,
and that's just to bring everything up because honestly, if you have a older house, the panel is not really built for technology of today.
Right.
So that is a definite case that nobody really thinks about unless they go in and they have that much information. But if they buy a house and they redo it, they may run out of space and have to do a sub panel just to add power coming in from the main pole.
Sure. Okay. Well, so what we always like to know is how can we help as we're kind of getting your message out there? Who are the people that you're looking for? So like, I mean, obviously you've got the easy ones, you know, the folks that are getting ready to buy a house, but to just like your standard homeowner, is it someone who's thinking of doing like a room addition or tearing down their deck to replace it? Are there certain things that you may be looking at in your house that I need to get my entire home inspected? Or is just, I haven't done it in 10, 15, 20 years?
The biggest things is if somebody's wanting to buy a house and they need to know what it is, some realtors are very well versed on everything. They can go look at a house real quick and they can tell, hey, client, you know, you may not want to do that. It's not good. I'm just go ahead and put you into a better place. For selling a house, a lot of realtors ask like, hey, you want to get inspected first. And the reason why you inspect a house for someone that's selling a house, if you've lived in a house and you've got a leaky faucet, 9 times out of 10, you're going to forget about it because it's normal. You understand it. You've seen it for years. It's not there. However, a new buyer comes in, it's leaking. All of a sudden, whoa, I got to call a plumber and everything in. Right. So if you walk through a house beforehand, there's a lot of things that can be taken care of instead of waiting until somebody pokes it out.
Well, finding out 6 months later.
So disclaimers are very good with that. But if the house has selling a house has got a good disclaimer, or inspected, just consult it or anything, just say, look, this is brown. One of the windows is squeaky. You know, could be anything, but it's something that they can say, okay, these are the things that the inspector found prior to the selling list. Let's go ahead and knock off these chunks here, and the rest we can understand with or deal with money or whatever we want to do. If you want to fix it yourself, you have, okay, so now let's move our date for sale to put it on the market. Let's move 1 month. Take that much money, put it into the house, and come out with a better selling. This is my opening.
Well, that's a pretty strong case right there. I mean, that right there is a wonderful argument. So you're saying, like, if you're thinking of selling your house, you should get it inspected before you even list it, so that you kind of know going in, these are the big ticket items that are going to hurt me at the negotiating table. And if I do, you know, maybe I've got 8 things, if I do at least the top 4 or 5 and leave, you know, some of the other minor things can be kind of discretionary, but if I do these big ones, I can actually get more money for the house.
Like putting more time and effort into it to get more out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, raise my list price. Yeah.
Right. And the realtors are they're on. I mean, their job is to get the most money for whatever they're trying to do. And it does sometimes come down to a simple thing of like air conditioning, changing over to the new Freon.
New coolant.
And so if you've got old stuff there that was built in 1978 or 2000, you only get about 15, 16
What's the
years.
new one? 410A is the new?
And the old is R22. And so it's there. It's already been passed in law.
Sure.
But it's still...
Well, they're letting everybody who had the old systems keep using it until it needs to be replaced.
Yes. And so that's something that if you're buying a home that this is my stay-at-home home forever, then that's something you want to look at into and see if that actually works right or not.
Sure.
So that could be somebody's family.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, you need this.
I had to buy a new HVAC system last year. It was just such a wonderful experience. Not at all. No, not at all. But it was necessary. But that you don't really miss it until something goes wrong with it.
Correct.
That's one of those things that, I don't know what they did 100 years ago. But I guess they just sweated more.
Yep.
And I always find it kind of interesting if you live in a community. And you start driving through the community to get to your house, and you got to go through a couple streets. It's got a house, and all of a sudden you see people that are doing AC work, and at his house, and then all of a sudden you see one over here,
That's right.
over there.
Like a domino effect.
They're all built the same years, so they're all going to go pretty much around the same time. Right now, my development is going through roofing, and in the past 6 months, there has been 10 roofs redone.
Isn't it funny how that works? Just planned obsolescence. They just know this piece of plastic or this piece of asphalt or this steel is going to get weak at 12 and a half years is when they almost know this is how long it lasts. They don't build stuff like they used to.
No, they don't. And then, so you have your pre-listing sale inspection, you have your selling inspection to make sure that you have your customer and you're going to make sure it's good for them to move in. Then you have a 11-month warranty. Say you're buying a house and it's a brand new build. Contractors how to put that? Contractor is responsible for all fixes up until 1 year. 1 year, it's yours. So if there's anything goes wrong the first year, contractor's going to pay. So at 11 months, you get an inspection to make sure that there is nothing out there that's flapping, if you will. And so you can find things that need to be addressed. Good. And that way it goes back to the contractor before the month, say, it's coming to you.
That's a huge selling point, yeah. Go ahead and get things fixed while you still can.
And like I said earlier about water, one inspection I did, 11 months, the water from the gutter was turned into the foundation at the house right at the garage, and over time has washed away, eroded the ground underneath the driveway because they just put a little pack there, so there was a hole there. The house is settling like all houses do, but this one settled enough because the water was eroding the ground that it had a stair step crack in the brickwork, because it's just fascia. I mean, on the outside of it. So I mean, it started to come apart because the pressure was taking it down to the ground.
Yeah, because that brick's not attached really, except in a couple of spots, right? There's a space between that outer envelope and the brick usually.
Yes, and so this person, the brick was coming apart due to settlement, and it was due just by the gutter was not placed properly, or whatever it was, the water was running underneath. Yeah,
it's so complicated that if you think about a house, there's so many systems and there's so many interconnected things going on. I think your average homeowner just isn't equipped to know how all of those things work. So I mean, it's that much more reason why you need an expert, someone that does it all day, every day, and just knows all the things to look at, and I'm sure deliver a report that so these things are green, these are yellow, and then that one right there, that's a red item that needs to be looked at right now. I'm sure you see those things.
Yes, and just as far as like, this was not an inspection. A friend asked me, it's like, hey, can you come and look at my driveway? And I was able to take my tape measure 8 feet underneath the driveway, right next to it. So you have the driveway slab, 8 feet under where the water eroded out of there.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've got systems where they can put concrete in there and just pump it up and fill it up, but it costs money. But it's only 4 inches, and you're trying to take your car over that 4 inches, it's going to crack or break in that spot.
Sure.
So over time, it's just there's a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
And maintenance to keep it. I was talking yesterday about once a year you're supposed to drain your water heater.
Oh, for to get like calcium and like build up out.
And that saves the anodes, make it work right.
The heating element, yeah.
The heating element, yes. So most people don't do that.
Sure. Well, the tankless ones definitely. So they have even more so, right? The tankless ones, they have even more buildup. Am I thinking of that right?
Possibly.
I know the traditional tank water heaters. From what and again, this is me not really knowing. This is just me reading a headline somewhere or something, half of an article. But the ones with the tanks are a little more resistant to build up. You still have to do it, but the tankless ones they recommend like quarterly, or like having to like flush them out and run some kind of stuff through them.
Right.
They actually can stop working if you don't do it.
Oh wow!
It's one of the big drawbacks of tankless, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of maintenance that don't really want to do.
Well, most people don't do it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the biggest thing. My friend with what is it? Tino Heaton there, 5-star maintenance, they're saying, the filter. If you have a dirty filter, you'll clog up your system as fast as anybody else, and it'll freeze over as far as your furnace, your air conditioning, if you don't change a filter. If you change a filter, it'll clear out.
Yep.
And that's they find that all the time, and they just laugh at people. They call us, hey, look, we're going to charge you money coming out there to fix it, and we're going to fix it.
That's right.
Have you changed the filter? No. Let me try that. Change the filter. Okay, thank you.
Oh, it works.
I mean, it's not throwing away business or anything.
Of course.
But it's just, some of these things are too simple.
Yeah.
But
Well, that evaporator coil needs airflow.
Little things that homeowners don't think about.
Yeah.
And how many times have people been in the attic? Just going up into the attic and because the furnace is there, or if it's in the crawl space.
Yep.
People just don't go to those places.
So how long does it take to do a typical house? So you spend a half a day somewhere? A couple hours?
It goes from 2, for me, it's 2 to 4.
Yep.
2 to 4 hours. And if it's a simple house that doesn't have a lot of things, not newer construction, but just a house that doesn't really have a lot of things have been taken care of well, you can go through.
And if it's empty too, if it's like
a turnkey.
Yeah, well, if there's no furniture and stuff, like if it's lived in, I'm sure it's a lot harder than if it's literally on the market and it's completely gut empty with no furniture and appliances. It's probably a lot easier.
It is. You can go through the systems fairly well. But for myself, I usually ask the clients or realtors if they want to be there. That's a sticking point for some people. They don't want somebody over your back looking at you, doing everything. It's like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Why are you doing this? To me, I don't mind that as well. My wife will tell you I talk too much. I'm very shy, but when I'm doing something, I can talk a little bit about it. But that adds a little bit of time for me, 30 to 45 minutes to an inspection, just because if I explain it on the ground, this is what this is what it does, and this is what you have to do with it. Okay.
Well, it means you get less questions later.
Less questions for the realtor, less questions for the due diligence process of trying to do a deal with somebody as far as getting money, saying, hey, look, the roof is bad, I need a new roof kind of thing. But if I can explain things that it just makes it easier for everybody.
Plus, it sets you apart. I mean, that's kind of something to hang your hat on is, Joe, Steve, and Ricky, home inspectors, they don't want you being there while they're doing their work. But I encourage it. Well, I may not encourage it, but I am okay with it because I like that. I like to explain things to you, and it's an extra kind of added benefit. So that's pretty cool. I've actually had homes inspected in the past and have been told by home inspectors, don't be there when I come. So I know exactly what you're talking about. There are those guys out there that they're strict about it. They're like, I want the house empty so that I can do my work and get out. So
some of the bigger companies, liability.
Yeah, that too, I guess.
It just the insurance won't cover it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have insurance, but it's for myself, just myself being a one-person man, one-person team. I'd just rather do it.
Yeah.
It just makes it easy for everybody.
Sure.
So I usually spend about 3 to 4 hours a day on a house.
You ever? Tell me a crazy story that's happened in a house. You ever been like bit by a snake or anything, or a spider, or anything? What did you see? Run into any like raccoons in the attic?
No. No, I haven't. I've been very lucky with that.
Okay. Because they're up there.
Yes.
I mean, there's animals living in people's houses.
Yeah.
I've been in houses that just really didn't feel comfortable, but I was opening up the ceiling attic, and there was a brown recluse right next to the outside of it. So I'm sitting there, and okay, I can go up, but I got to get past this guy here. So I'm trying to get him out of the way, and I didn't want to get bit by him.
Yeah.
So I tried to get him away, so I swatted him away, and he went down to the floor, and the floor was carpet. Just so happened to be the same color. I could not find him. I couldn't find him on any of my gear, myself. I didn't know if I knocked it on there. So I spent about 25 minutes trying to look for that spider.
Oh, yeah.
And I found him, and then lost him again, and then had to get on with the inspection. But
that's something you want to know where he's at. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that's one of the bad ones.
So other than that, though, no. It's I know that You hear stories all the time. One realtor told me that they open door. Open door, you can go in there at any time. Somebody was going to go show in there. They opened up the door and there was somebody in the shower upstairs.
Oh, wow.
Stop it.
No, I mean, it's seriously, as far as, because an open door, anybody can just go to the door, call the number, and get the code.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is that a new way of listing your house? I'm not familiar
I
with
love
that.
open door. You get on
what is
the
that?
app and you go to the door of the house you're wanting to look at, and on the app you just hit like unlock or something like that, and the app unlocks the front door and you can go in.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fun.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this. What, do you just do it as a hobby?
At one point,
Yeah.
why not? We were thinking about possibly getting a new house, so we're like, let's just go and check some houses out.
Sure. That
Found some really nice ones.
That's a new. It's technology.
It
kind of
started with
mixing.
one in the neighborhood, so
Yeah.
it was like right there.
Yeah.
And then we just found some really cool ones.
Until you walk in and there's a guy in the shower.
Yep.
Yeah. It's cool right up until then.
Hasn't happened yet, but I'll keep that in mind so I'm prepared if that happens.
Just pack your mace.
So yeah, it's definitely out there, and we're open as far as not having a realtor to have to come with you and just go right to the door. You can schedule your online tours, if you will. But that's pretty. It's always in the back of the mind.
Yeah,
Doing
for
that
sure.
thing.
All right, well, so tell us how we find you. How do folks find you online, and what your contact infos and your details?
All right, my name is Gary Horton, Horton's Inspection Services, and my contact number is 404-545-5364. I specialize in residential home inspections, whether it be selling or buying, or 11-month warranty inspections. I do radon, and I test also for mold. My website is hortonsinspectionservices.com, and also I have a Google page that is linked from my website and Facebook. Contact me there. My email is gary@hortonsinspections.com.
Incredible. Well, thank you for coming in today, Gary.
Thank you for having me.
We've learned a lot, and we really appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.